from your perspective, because you're seeing a lot of pushback and a lot of support from the US, like $3.7 billion this month is going in weapons to Ukraine. And they're training on some special large equipment. Some of that training will take 5 to 6 months, but it's happening. Do you see a path forward where perhaps peace can happen and Donbass will be left to Russia? In other words, that those borders will be recognized and those people will be safe? Or is NATO and US trying to make this an endless war to make money? I mean, what's your assessment?
That's the big question you asked. You asked the most important question, and it's one we don't really know at the moment. I mean, I was hoping this winter, because you're seeing a split within NATO as well. You're seeing United States, Britain, Poland, the Baltic states on one side, and then France and Germany with a differing view. France and Germany never really wanted this war, and you can see them being very hesitant, particularly now whether Germany is going to give tanks or not. And I hope that this winter might bring more of that split, and Germany and France pushing for peace in Europe because of rising gas prices, lowering living standards in Europe. We haven't seen that yet, but increasingly I think you'll see more European nationalists, and I'm not talking about necessarily left-wing anti-war activists. I'm talking about conservative politicians as well. There's a huge amount of conservative people in positions of power in Germany and France who don't think this war is in European interests. So at one point, I think that's the best chance of peace. European governments moving against the policy of the United States. The other way that this war can end is if Russia has a crushing military victory. That's very much what Russia is focusing on at the moment. I think they've lost all faith. They wanted to negotiate even in the beginning of the war. There's allegations that it was Boris Johnson who went to Kiev to stop that peace happening. So the Russians have wanted to negotiate. The Russians, I think, would have been very happy after they took over these 4 regions and they had the referendums. I think Vladimir Putin and the Russians would have been very happy to negotiate then, and with the land that they've taken over, and for peace to happen with some other provisos. But now I think the Russians have lost all faith in NATO and Ukraine, and I think they're very much focused on the military. So, but it's tough for the Russians fighters as well. But I mean, Barack Obama said years ago that NATO couldn't win a war in Ukraine because it's of vital importance to Russia. It's not of vital importance to Europe or America. Donbass, Crimea, they don't need it. So that's why Russia can mobilize huge parts of its economy. The Russian economy, NATO hoped that the Russian economy would crash because of sanctions. It hasn't, doesn't look like it will. They hoped that Putin would fall. He's as popular as ever. And now they hope they can beat Russia on the battlefield. And that's what they're trying to do. But it's very much Russia going forward at the moment. But the question you ask is a good one. And it's interesting. Does NATO even want to win this war? Does it think they can win this war? I'm interested in that. Does NATO believe they can win this war? I'm not sure. I think some of them think they can. Or as you say, it's quite possible they may just want this war to continue, and it's in lots of people's interest for it to simply continue.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's the economic incentive when you have Raytheon and Lockheed Martin and some of the European weapons manufacturers that are basically pocketing the money. In fact, my theory about the Leopard tanks in Germany has nothing to do with Germany not wanting to bend a knee to the US, because they do. So I think it's because there's some pressure from the US because they're competing weapons manufacturing. I think there's some, elite pushing behind the scenes.
You may well be right. There's so many weapons being sent by by NATO countries at the moment that the weapons manufacturers are loving it, because all these weapons and tanks are going to have to be replaced. If Germany gives its tanks to Ukraine, well, they're going to have to be replaced. And Poland, all these countries, if they give their German tanks, they're going to have to be replaced. And who's going to win those contracts? German companies or American companies? So yeah, you make a very good point.
So they're having little fights behind the scenes, I think.
Sure.